Bullion by Post is the UK's #1 online bullion dealer. At Bullion by Post, we make it easy to buy and sell gold and silver. We stock a wide range of coins, bars and collectibles. Bullion by Post have delivered over 300,000 orders and are proud to have received over 19,000 customer reviews. All orders include free insured delivery. We also offer secure storage. For live prices or to find out...
Grenfell survivors and campaigners have been left shocked by Scotland Yard's admission that any criminal charges relating to the fire are not likely until at least 2021. RTK's Shadi Edwards-Dashty has this report.
It's been 21 months since the Grenfell Tower tragedy, and survivors who still seek answers say the pace of justice is too slow, as the Metropolitan Police announces that no criminal charges in the investigation are likely to be brought within the next 2 years. Now, while Scotland Yard may be wrong not for the full and final report of the inquiry, survivors say that they're left in limbo regarding justice, and they believe that the wait is agonising. Now, earlier I spoke to Nabil Choucair, who lost 6 members of his family in the fire. What means to you to actually go a bit further with this investigation, given that you've lost so many members of your family? What does it mean?
It would mean that we would be to find that little big space, a little gap, where we can concentrate on other things and other things of how we should be dealing and what we should be doing.
Do you feel you're able to move on with life?
It's very, very hard to move on with the fact of what's happening, because, you know, we're supposed to be sitting back and going through therapy and counselling when we're instead fighting, try and get the justice. People are blatantly, you know, run away and been not named and been brought forward to be prosecuted.
And why do you think that they are delaying?
They're trying to get all the evidence. I say they're trying to cover it, and they're giving loopholes for the people that should be prosecuted. They're giving them more time so they can get out of being prosecuted, which is not right, and something needs to be done about it. They might get away with murder. Well, I believe they will get away with murder because, well, you know, when you hear about what they might be, I don't think we'll get the justice that we really, really want.
How do you think the inquiry is being handled?
Definitely the inquiry has not been handled very well, because they're leaving a lot of things out, a lot. And, you know, it's definitely a whitewash. They're covering up a lot of things. They're very inconsiderate to the bereaved in what has happened, and you only have to look about how they're dealing with the inquiry. It tells you that the system that they're doing is they're covering something up blatantly, and this is not acceptable.
There's no official timetable for the second phase of the inquiry, but it's unlikely to be before the end of this year. But for survivors and bereaved family members, they wished and hoped that the public inquiry could act independently from the police investigation. Now, it's understood that the police have interviewed 11 people under criminal caution for offences ranging from manslaughter to health and safety breaches. To this day, not a single person has been arrested, and today's announcement means that any possible charges may not happen until 2022, which is almost 5 years after the blaze that shocked the nation that claimed the lives of 72. The force do acknowledge, though, that the proposed date for the criminal charges might be much longer than some might have anticipated. But what they're saying is that they need much more time to collect and consider all relevant evidence and information.
The publication of any final inquiry report will follow Phase 2 hearings, and so the Met's assessment is that any file submission to the Crown Prosecution Service is unlikely to be sooner than the latter part of 2021.
Now, the inquiry has been swamped by over 500,000 separate documents, which will be sifted through Phase 2 of the inquiry, which will also look into the causes of the blaze and the use of the cladding which helped spread the fire. But campaigners are calling on the government for reassurances that change will come, and change will come quickly. However, for survivors almost 2 years on, still justice is yet to be served. Shadi Edwards-Dashty, RTUK, West London.
For more on all of this, I'm now joined by Grenfell campaigner Professor Chris Imafidon. Chris, is this not delay on criminal charges justified? We don't want to prejudice the inquiry, do we?
Justification for the delay There's hardly any grounds for it, because remember, in the immediate aftermath of the fire, there was a meeting in Downing Street, and the Prime Minister assured the bereaved and the survivors of one thing: there'd be swift justice. And these meetings were minuted. Then followed on with the inquiry. We were told that the inquiry will run in parallel to the police inquiry. We were never told that one was going to be after the other. One doesn't need to inform the other. Scotland Yard has enough resources, with or without inquiry, to be able to identify potential culprits.
Okay, but to identify potential culprits, there must be so much evidence to sift through. We don't want to rush anything, because those who are culpable may perhaps escape justice.
Then we should apologize to men and women who we have already tried, convicted, and jailed right now. Because there were people that claimed that they were in the building when they were not in the building, and made some claims to RBKC that are behind bars right now. So we don't want to be seen as having one separate justice system for the wealthy and the powerful, and another for the poor and the uninformed. Because that's essentially what's happening. We're having a two-justice system right now dealing with the same case.
Right. From your point of view, who should be facing criminal charges?
The CPS already has enough files with Scotland Yard. They already have enough files. All they need to is call on the files. You have a landlord that's responsible for the safety of the tenant. There's nothing unique about the relationship between Grenfell Tower tenants and Grenfell Tower landlords. It's the same all across the country. If there's any case of arson today in this particular building, God forbid, do you know what happens? There are set steps. So this is not rocket science.
But presumably people will be looking for individuals rather than those hiding behind organisations?
Both. We should look for an individual culpability and institutional culpability. The local authority should, and by the way, if you listen to if you have attended the inquiry, you will know that there are enough materials right now. You don't even need to go. You don't need to have a separate presentation to Scotland Yard. They had their men every day at the inquiry, so they can glean more information from that. They can order anybody right now that is working for RBKC and interview them. They have interviewed staff of RBKC and prosecuted successfully men and women that committed lesser crime, however related to Grenfell Tower. So why are we not serious about the major crime?
Right, you asked that question. Are you being listened to, though, as a campaigner and your colleagues? Are you getting any response on what you're saying?
The government is giving big room for, conspiracy theory to come up. Because if you don't say the truth quick enough, do you know what happens? People come up with wonderful stories. And if it fits circumstantial evidence, of course they'll come up with all sorts of theories about what happened there. So the government needs to be very quick, because the government has paid a deaf ear. They say yes, they're listening, but their corresponding action, or the action that they take after listening to you, betrays the fact that they listen. Because they shouldn't have told us at the very beginning of the inquiry that we'll have a parallel system.
Professor Chris Imafidon, thank you very much. Good to talk to you here in the studio.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Well, families who do suffer from the death of a loved one due to alleged state failings, as in the case of Grenfell, rarely get legal aid to help fight their corner. There are numerous hoops to jump through and years to wait. Many can be forced into hardship by expensive fees or have to represent themselves in court. Now, campaign group Inquest has launched a petition pushing for change. The petition, set up last month, gathered 2,000 signatures on the first day alone. Since then, the number has risen to just under 4,000. It calls on the government to give non-means-tested legal aid funding to all families who have suffered a state-related bereavement. The campaign is supported by many well-known organisations such as Grenfell United, Mind, the Bar Council, Operation Black Vote, Liberty and Criminal Justice Alliance. Well, we spoke to the Director of Inquest, who told us why the campaign is important.